Today's episode of Dementia Caregiving for Families, episode 88, is a special episode where we are talking with one of my group coaching members that has been a member of my community since June of last year in 2023. So we've been working together about 9 months or so. Her name is Angela, and she has a wonderful story, and I'm very excited that she is joining me today to tell you of some of the benefits that she has been receiving from being in the group coaching program. One of the things that I'm really working very hard on distinguishing for people is that the program that I am starting, the Founding 54 program that I'm starting, is not a membership group like a lot of other communities. This is a group coaching program, a low-cost group coaching program with the intent of having long support over an extended period of time. So listen to today's episode. We talk a lot about where Angela was when she first started working with me in the group coaching program and where she is right now, even though it is definitely coming to the later stages of her mom's journey with dementia. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Dementia Caregiving for Families. If you're interested in working with me, please reach out. Go to Dementia Caregiving Made Easy /start on the website. You can schedule a call with me. It'll be about a 20-minute call. I'm not here to have people join this community unless they are the right people, so there's no pressure, and I will answer your questions if you have any specific questions. So thank you for listening to today's episode. Hey there, success seeker. Welcome to Dementia Caregiving for Families. Do you feel overwhelmed with the daily struggle of dementia caregiving? Looking for an easier path? You're in the right place. On this podcast, we teach you the skills to simplify caregiving. We unravel the mystery of dementia and guide you through the often difficult behaviors. I'm Lizette, your host and fellow family caregiver. As an occupational therapist, I bring my professional and personal experience to this community. Here we speak the truth, but without the verbal vomit. I know you will find value in today's program, so buckle up while this flight takes off. Well, welcome to today's episode of Dementia Caregiving for Families. It is episode 88, and we have a special treat today. We have one of my group coaching members who has joined me today to tell us a little bit about her journey and the benefits of having been in the group coaching program, so that you as a listener can understand what it is that we are creating when we're creating this Founding 54 families that we are that's the special that we're doing this month. So Angela, thank you so much for being here today. I'm very appreciative of your time, and I always love seeing your sweet face. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So Angela, tell us a little bit about your story related to dementia and dementia caregiving. Now, I know you very well, so it's hard for me to ask the right questions because I know too much about your history and your background, but I'd love you to tell people what a little bit about why you are in this group program and a little bit about the story behind your family.
So my husband and I have two sons. They're 22 and 17. And we moved to America probably about 6 years ago. So we live here. We're originally from South Africa. My mother has dementia, and it got to a stage where my dad needed help. And so we had my parents come and live with us so that we can help support my dad with my mom. They started living with us about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. We love having them with us, but it's difficult with my mom who has dementia. So
Sure. Now, how long have you known, or how long did you suspect your mom was having trouble with her thinking?
uh, probably since 2016
Okay,
is
so
when
about
we really started.
so that's 8 years ago, about eight
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah.
And the first several years with your dad, mom and dad were still living in South Africa, and you guys were at least not living in the same country as them. I don't remember if you were still where you lived before, or whether you were always here in the States. But I know for a period of time you were kind of going back and forth, or maybe just seeing mom on Zoom calls and things like that. When did you then realize that your dad wasn't coping alone anymore, and what precipitated the decision to have them move to the States?
Yeah. Even though we didn't live in the same country as my parents, we Zoomed with them fairly often.
Mhm.
So I think we could see, the decline on our video calls and conversations. But I think earlier in 2021 is when I got a phone call from my father, and it was evident that things had progressed to a stage where he just needed support and help.
He needed support and help. And so when mom and dad first came over to the United States and started living with you guys, things were a little bit easier than they are right now, correct? Like, related to her dementia.
Yes, related. Yes, that is correct. Related to her dementia, things were easier.
Okay. And you've been a part of the group coaching since about June last year is when we started with the very small group of women, mostly women, where I've been working with you guys once a week. People come and go as they need to, correct? But working with you guys once a week for ongoing support related to dementia and dementia caregiving.
Mhm.
When we first started in June, I want you to go back to last June and what you were feeling and thinking related to dementia caregiving, what you were experiencing, what was challenging for you at that period of time.
Back in June, probably, I mean, for our whole family, just realizing how significant dementia caregiving is, how much time it takes, not only doing physical things, but my own mental ability.
Mhm.
It's draining, it's difficult. Yeah, I was, it was stressful. It's very stressful.
So I'm gonna take you back to the very, very first time you and I actually spoke, on a Zoom call. You and your husband, Roy, were sitting in the
Yes,
car.
yes, we were.
Um, does that make it a little easier for you to remember what you were thinking and feeling?
Yeah, yeah. It feeling very stressed out, very anxious, very not knowing what to do or how to do anything.
Okay.
Um,
So not knowing what to do physically with your mom, or not knowing what to do to help her function better, or what kind of things were you struggling with at that time?
I think everything really. I kind of felt like I keep throwing things at the wall, hoping it's going to stick, and nothing sticks.
Mhm,
Um, I didn't know how to help my mom physically to get her to do something that she needed to do for her own
mhm.
benefit. I didn't know how to engage my mom in a meaningful way to help her feel like she still has purpose. I just didn't know how to have a conversation with her, how to support her conversation wise at the state where she was and is.
Mhm. And so, since being in the group coaching program, has that changed for you?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Caregiving for dementia patients, it's still difficult. It still takes a lot of time. Um, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mhm,
Um, but the stress, the 24-hour a day stress that I had is not there anymore. Very much less anxious. You've helped me see how to interact with my mom, how to give her tasks to do to help her still feel like she's engaged and has a purpose in our family. Just tricks and ways to help her get to eat her food, getting her to eat her food, or helping her to, take a shower, or just the normal things that we have to do as humans that become difficult.
Right. Did you know that caring for a person with dementia doesn't have to be this hard? If you are struggling and you would like to join our next free workshop, the topic of the workshop is 3 tips how to avoid challenging dementia behaviors without stress, anxiety, or burnout. I invite you to walk away with science-backed dementia caregiving skills that many professionals don't even know after attending this free workshop. If you'd like to register, message me the word workshop on Instagram or check out the link in the show notes below. So I know that you have your 2 boys and your husband and then your dad that all live in the same house. Even though they haven't necessarily come to any of the group coaching calls, have you seen their ability to be able to help your mom change just from you being able to help teach them?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I think they've picked up on what I've been doing with my mom. I haven't necessarily said, okay, this is what we have to do, but they've just picked up on seeing how I've been behaving, and it's definitely helped them as well.
Right. So it's kind of like a trickle down effect, because I know a lot of, sometimes people, when I speak to them about joining the group coaching, they're like, well, my family's not going to come. My family's not going to join. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight to people is, even though your own family may not necessarily hop on all of the calls, they have access to them, so they can come if they so choose to, but they can also watch the videos or listen to them later on if they cannot come. But even if they didn't do any of those things, just seeing how you have changed your interactions with your mom and the kinds of tricks and tips that you're using because of the coaching calls, it seems to me that has kind of spilled over onto the rest of the family.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about your stress levels. So when you first started your journey and the coaching, if 0 was no stress and 10 is, I'm off the chain, when we started working together, kind of where were your stress levels at that point?
Pretty much a 10.
Pretty much a 10. 100?
Yeah, can it go higher?
Okay. And so how was that stress manifesting itself in you? Like, people deal with stress differently. Like, some people turn into an ostrich and stick their head in the sand, or they, they isolate themselves, or they gain weight. That's mine. I'm a stress eater. Some people lose weight. Some people, their relationships are impacted. How is your stress impacting your life?
I think I just for sure wasn't very present in any of my relationships. Right. So I think it was affecting every relationship. So my husband and my relationship with my boys, my relationship with my dad, my relationship with my mom, and with friends as well. I think if I'm struggling with something, it's very much in the forefront of my mind. So I had that going on the whole time. For me, when I'm really stressed out, things tend to not necessarily get done that should get done around the house, because I just can't, I feel like I can't cope with it all.
Sure. Well, I feel that way today too. I've got stacks of things that I've got to get done. And, stress it's an interesting conversation to me, because last week I was actually listening to a podcast, and I was reminded in the podcast, the gentleman was talking about stress and the fact that stress tells us that we actually need to do something, right? We actually need to solve the problem. That's why, stress is fight or flight. It's a protective mechanism, right? But we don't think about it necessarily as a
No.
protective mechanism. We experience it and we feel it. But one of the things that he reminded me is that stress is actually designed to force us to make a decision to actually solve a problem. And when we do that, it will help decrease our stress. One of the challenges I think people have related to dementia caregiving is they don't even know where to go or what to do to actually decrease their stress levels. It's just
That's so true, because you keep trying things. At least, this was me. Keep trying things and it's not working, and I don't know why it's not working.
Mhm.
And you try another thing and it's still not working, and so it just builds up the stress instead of there being any sort of release of that stress
Sure.
and tension.
So in comparison to then and now, tell me about your stress levels now. I know dementia caregiving is stressful. We're
Sure.
never going to take all of the stress away because it that's just the reality of it. But in
Mhm.
comparison to where you were 9 months ago, where your stress levels were 110 out of 100, where would you say your stress levels are now? Or are they significantly decreased or just a little, or now a more manageable stress level?
Oh no, they've definitely significantly decreased. Maybe a three. Three sounds
That's
like a good number. Um, no, really. I think just having the strategies in place, knowing how to help support my mom, how to help support my dad,
Mhm.
who's helping my mom, um, has really helped alleviate a lot of the stress. You know, and part of that is just knowing what to do,
Mhm.
knowing a better way, even if you know eating the meal doesn't go according to plan. It's knowing how to work through that and not get stressed out about it or anxious about it. It
Mhm.
didn't work now, and that's okay. We'll go back to the drawing board.
Try
But
something new.
yeah.
So on the coaching calls, when we're doing the group coaching, it's not just you and me. There are other people
Hmm.
in the conversations. Everybody has given permission to be there, and everybody has a family member of some sort who has dementia. We've had spouses, we've had children, we've had siblings in the group. What benefit have you noticed people are getting from being in a community of other people who are walking through this together?
Hmm. Um, well, first of all, it's having other people who are walking through it together. I think I was feeling very isolated. And, people know that other people out there in the world have dementia, but it feels a very isolated thing.
Mhm.
So just knowing that there's other people who are walking the same road, whether their journey is before where I am or after where I am, it's still just helpful knowing that there are people there. But then also just hearing the things that they're struggling with, it helps me feel like, again, like I'm not alone in the things that I'm struggling with.
Mhm.
Um, and hearing how you're coaching them helps me for, when I come up with something similar, or, I don't want to speak about other things, but something that happened in the group this past time week, I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to remember to do that more. um, you know,
For sure.
remember to have Lizette in my head.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what she said. One of our group members had her mom had a little bit of a dip, and she was uh she was dealing with almost a mini crisis.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating is she came back and said that because she knew what she needed to do, because she could hear me in her head, which is or isn't a good thing. Never mind. That's a whole separate conversation. But
It's a
she
great
said
thing.
that she could hear what I would likely have said for her to do. So it's like all of and she's also been in this group about 8 or 9 months, that it's like the repetition from listening from one week to the next, various different people, various different situations. Because really, honestly, if you think about it, I answer the questions very similarly every single time. There's a process. It's a
Very.
framework. But if you don't know the process or the framework, when you're looking at the problem, you don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So the fact that every single week she's come week in, week out, asking her question, but listening to other people's questions and listening to the responses has taught her subconsciously the framework
Yeah.
that you need to follow in order to actually make it easier. Because it's interesting, Angela and I were talking before we started this program about a seminar, not a seminar, but a workshop, well, like a lecture, an hour-long presentation that I had done last week for executive level leadership at a skilled nursing facility. And one of the questions that I had actually asked the people on the that were in the room was, does dementia follow a predictable path? And there were about 50 people in the room, and about 49 of them stuck their hand up and said, no, it doesn't. And my contention is that, yes, if you've seen one person with dementia, you've seen one person with dementia, because each person's brain is different.
Yeah.
But the process that people go through is very predictable.
Yeah.
And it follows a very predictable path. But if you don't know that,
Yeah.
it looks like there's no rhyme or reason, or nothing makes sense at all. So yeah, it was kind of fun listening to her telling us that she had me in her head, the poor
It
woman.
was fun. Yeah.
It was kind of fun. So for people who might be thinking about joining this group coaching program, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, what is the difference, between a membership and what I'm developing, which is a low-cost group coaching program. Um,
Mhm.
when I kind of explained this to you beforehand, but what for you has been the benefit of having this over an extended period of time, as opposed to just 1 month or 2 months?
Oh my goodness, it's been so beneficial. I mean, we know that people with dementia, they have a regression, right? They regress. So what's working today is not going to work next week or even tomorrow, for that matter.
Mhm.
And I think, for different people, the progression or regression is quicker than for others. So when I started out coming to the group, the things that I was having difficulty with, which were legitimate, are drastically different to the things that we're going through right now.
Mhm.
Um, and I think if I only had 1 month or 2 months of the group, I would be back where. So if I only had those first 2 months back in
Mhm.
June and July last year, right now, I'd be back to where I was before that, because I wouldn't know how to deal with anything.
Right. Because
Um,
it's changed since then.
it's
Did you know that caring for a person with dementia doesn't have to be this hard? If you are struggling and you would like to join our next free workshop, the topic of the workshop is 3 tips how to avoid challenging dementia behaviors. without stress, anxiety, or burnout. I invite you to walk away with science-backed dementia caregiving skills that many professionals don't even know after attending this free workshop. If you'd like to register, message me the word workshop on Instagram or check out the link in the show notes below.
Oh, for sure.
Right. For sure. So one of the reasons I've decided to do this in a group coaching format and not in a membership is because I don't know how many of you guys have a gym membership that you haven't used in 2 months and then you cancel it because you haven't used it, or a Hulu subscription or a Netflix subscription, which is a membership type platform, which implies that if I'm not using it, I can just cancel it. The reason I went with a group coaching program is actually because the research, the medical research, the research on dementia and dementia caregiving shows that in order to really truly facilitate a change for families, it needs to be over an extended period of time. But what happens is you go to the doctor today, right? And you have a follow-up appointment sometimes 6 months or a year later, right? And something happens in your dementia caregiving journey tomorrow, and it's 6 months or a year before you have help, but it's like an ever rolling stream where it's gone from that initial change to where it is 6 months from now. You've been running behind and scrambling, just trying to get caught up. And that was the driving force behind me doing this as a group coaching program, to provide people with that longitudinal or extended period of time support, because I don't want a person just joining this program for a month or two and not having, and then not having the support they need 3 months or 6 months, or, the program is a year long for people when they join. And if they join right now as a founding member, I'm actually promising them lifelong access for the people who join as a lifelong of the person that they're supporting. So you'd be supporting your mom, and as long as your mom would live, you would have access to this program. So I think it's a sweet deal, but
Absolutely.
I'm a little biased about that.
Oh no, I agree with you. It's for sure a sweet deal. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so for people who are on the fence and may say, but Lizette, you don't understand, I don't have the time, or it's going to be too much effort, or my mom is different than everybody else. What kind of things would you have to say to them? Let's start with I don't have the time. Yes, it's a time commitment, right? It's an hour a week. And Angela, I think, has never missed a week. Maybe 1 week, but I know you've couple of times you've dropped off early. But I've also seen you join from your cell phone in the car, driving with your kids, all sorts of different access points, because, being there truly is making a difference. So what would you say to somebody that says, I don't have time for this?
Yeah, I don't not have time for this, because it is a commitment. For us, it changes the way we do a Tuesday evening, because, that's close to dinner time. But it would take more time for me not having the calls, trying to figure it out on my own, and more stress than having the hour-long call once a week. So it is a time commitment, but it's less of a time commitment, actually.
Right. And what about it's taking too much effort? Like, time and effort sometimes sound like the same thing, but does it take a lot of effort to learn or practice or do the strategies that I teach you?
Lizette, I think what you put in is what you get out.
I 100% agree with
Yeah,
you.
it takes effort because it's
Mhm,
retraining my mind
mhm,
on, okay, let me not get stressed out because mom's not eating. Um, let me give it a minute and try again. But again, that short little bit of effort has so much longer time of reward
mhm,
than just not putting in that effort at all. Um, and I think, a lot of the strategies that you've taught me is not only helpful for that specific difficulty I'm going through, or we're experiencing, I should say, but it rolls over into other aspects as well.
mhm.
Yeah,
So you can take one thing and then use it everywhere else.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then, what about, you've been in the group coaching, before. Every single human we're supporting in there is different, right?
That is correct.
For sure. So when people say, but my mom or dad is different, or the person I'm supporting, it's different, you don't understand, what would you say to them now that you've sat in some of these coaching calls and heard all the different stories? Are they very different? Are they 100, do they have some similar traits? Or like I said, is it a little bit of a predictable path, as you've been listening to some of the information that I've been sharing with people?
Yeah, there is very much a little bit of a predictable path. Yes, we're different people. We have different preferences, maybe, but I think at the end of the day, um, a lot of the strategies you give help all of us, really.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think the other thing that I try and remember as well, because sometimes you'll suggest something, and I'm like, I don't know if that'll work. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Lizette's been doing this for how long? She's worked with how many patients who have been in this process,
Hmm.
who've struggled with dementia, whether it's early or late stage.
Hmm.
Um, you know what you're talking about, and it works.
And we've had a few people who have said that, well, this isn't going to work. Do you think that a person like that actually gets something out of this group community, or what type of person needs to consider joining? Like, are there certain characteristics that you've noticed yourself people in the community are more successful
Mhm.
as opposed to others?
Yeah, I think you know, you the person needs to be wanting to learn, wanting support, um, wanting to be pushed a little bit on their thoughts, versus. So, for instance, I thought having, just for an example, I thought having my mom sit down in the shower would be more effort than just having her standing up. It's so much easier having her sit down, you know, things like that, being
Right,
pushed on, thought processes like that. You need to be willing to try things.
right. So a little more proactive. Tell me in your own words, what what's the biggest benefit that you have gotten from actually being in this group? Like, if you were to summarize what it is that you have gotten, tell the people listening what's been the biggest benefit for you.
The biggest benefit that I have gotten is, sorry, this is going to sound cheesy and everything, but it's honestly being able to enjoy my mom's last days with her and
I don't
not
think that sounds
having it
cheesy at
stressed
all.
out, not having her stressed out and not being stressed out. I wouldn't like to look back when this journey is over. I wouldn't like to look back and think, wow, I was so not patient, or I was so mean. Um, just, yeah,
So reclaiming your time.
reclaiming my time, reclaiming the relationship.
Oh, I love that. See, that's one of the biggest things, that one of my driving forces is like to help family caregivers just decrease their stress, redeem their time together
Yeah.
and their relationships, because ultimately that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I talk about this frequently with a lot of, with people. None of us are going to make it out of here alive. I hate to be the one to break it to people if they think that they are going to make it out of here alive. Unless the Lord comes, we're all not going to make it out of here alive.
Mhm.
But the reality of the matter is, we can still choose how we want to live until we're not there anymore. And so one of my biggest opportunities that I've always seen is how many people have lost their own relationships in the process. Like as a daughter, your relationship with your dad and your mom, and as a wife, your relationship with your husband, and as a mom, your relationship with your children. And so being able to give you the tools so that you can reclaim those relationships in this process,
Mhm.
because you're not so stressed and you're not just floundering trying to get
Yeah.
information all the time, truly is a remarkable gift. So thank you for that. Well,
Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're in the group. I'm always happy to see your smiling face. And
Oh, thank you.
Angela is a very special person. We have actually met face to face. She lives locally to me, so I count her a friend now. We met through this process. We didn't actually know one another before this process, but most of you guys listening know I am originally from South Africa. She still has a little more of an accent than I do. But we both are originally from South Africa. No, we did not know one another in South Africa. No, we did not know one another here in the United States until she joined this program. But I'm very glad to be able to help her through this process, because it really, yes, caregiving can be very difficult, but it can also be significantly easier. And that's the biggest thing I want people to take from this conversation today is you don't have to do this alone.
No.
You don't have to struggle. You don't have to be so stressed out of your mind. Yes, you have to put in some time and effort, but you know what? You're going to put in the time and effort either on the front end or on the back end.
Yeah.
It raising our kids take time.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think this is taking a lot less time and effort than it's taking me to learn how to make a sourdough starter. So
that is very, very funny. Well, Angela, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it. It is always a pleasure to help you and your beautiful, sweet mom. And I look forward to having you on our next coaching call.
Thank you. I look forward to being there. Thank you for everything.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining me today, Success Seeker. I pour my heart and soul into this program to serve you. You can serve me by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and join our free Facebook group, Dementia Caregiving for Families. It's a positive and proactive space to navigate dementia caregiving together. Get practical tools and find support, but without the verbal vomit. Be a part of our community where we seek to find peace of mind and ease despite the dementia diagnosis. So join today and see you next time as our flight takes off.